Hello and welcome to the Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast with me, clinical somatic educator and founder of Total Somatics, Heidi Hadley. The Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast has been designed to help you gain a deeper understanding to how your mind and body work. You will learn about your amazing mind and body and why over time you can feel pain, recurring injuries and poor posture. Within this podcast, I will teach you why this doesn't have to be your future or the norm for you. Would you like to learn how to reduce pain, move freely, and gain a new lease of life? Let's get started. Hello and welcome back. Now, in today's episode, we're going to look at lower back pain and having a protruding belly. So that's quite an interesting combination, isn't it, that we're going to delve into today? The reason for this is that within my clinic here in South Australia, when I teach clinical somatic movement too, and also when I'm teaching members within the Total Somatics online membership, what I've often noticed and I've delved into in greater detail is this correlation between having a sway back, a protruding belly, and lower back pain. So we're going to unpack this today and look a little bit further into it. Because do you remember in the previous episode, one of the descriptions that I mentioned was when people say how their bottom sticks out and they have this sway back and they feel quite self-conscious, and that can be part of what affects their identity or their self-worth or their self-esteem. Well, let us consider today why they have this sway back and this belly sticking out and how that still links with a belly protruding also. Now, as we know, lower back pain is very common around the world. And people are often given conflicting information about their back. So, for example, it could be your back is weak. You have to strengthen your back. Your belly sticks out, so that means we have to strengthen your core. It could be your discs are herniated, or wear a brace for your back. I've heard people say also, when you're sitting down, put a bolster or a roll into the small of your back. Now, these are all quite conflicting. And when we look underneath at the neuromuscular patterns and behavior and habits that are developing from some of these, in Total Somatics, I delve a lot deeper into workshops that I hold for members. But in this episode today, we can dissect and look at a few of those comments and how they actually are amplifying the tension of tightness and pain within that person's musculature. So first of all, what we are very much aware of, especially if you are a regular listener to my podcast, and even more so if you're in the Total Somatics membership, is I talk about our brain stem. This is the part at the bottom here of our brain that's involved in subconscious or automatic actions that happen. So our heart rate and our breathing and our digestive function, all of those things happen subconsciously. So we don't have to remind ourselves to do those activities. There is also something housed in this area, and they are your brainstem postural reflexes. So in a stressful situation, your muscles will pattern tension and tightness to protect you and to act as a survival situation. So it could be to, we go back to the old days with the cave person and the saber-toothed tiger. Those brainstem postural reflexes will either make you run or fight or flee that situation, or you will kind of feign death or fawn or hide behind a rock or whatever it is in service of survival. So you see, the brainstem tightens these muscles to take us in and out of a stressful situation. However, because of people's learned behaviors, living in stressful environments for years, picking up habits and behaviors from caregivers, what we can start to do is live in tight bodies because we don't know how to actually create a state of balance within our nervous system, a state of balance within our muscular system, and come back to more of a neutral position within our nervous system, which reflects on our musculature. And so what happens is that over the time we become more, well, we are from birth, we are more subconscious than conscious. And so these subconscious patterns and behaviors start to show up. And the most common thing that we see with lower back pain is that the muscles that get really tight are the muscles that are connected to the spine and the rib cage and the back of the pelvis. So all of that lower back region is really chronically tight. And the postural reflex pattern that's developed for that is called the green light reflex, which I delve into in huge detail within the Total Somatics membership. But the green light reflex creates what we would call a sway back. So it amplifies this big arch in the small of your back. It makes your bottom stick out. But at the same time, your belly sticks out, and it's only sticking out because the posture and the position of your pelvis has changed. So if you over contract the back muscles, the belly is going to kind of spill over, really. So if you can picture this for a start, if you've got really tight lower back muscles, it means it's going to affect the shock absorbency and the rhythm and the elasticity when you move, because no longer do we have much give or much bounce through those very important areas of your lower back. Also, when we move, we should have a rotation or a spiral component to our movement. And when people are locked and tight from their lower back and their ribs, you find that they walk very wooden, very stiff in their hips. They can sometimes be heavy through one foot more than the other, but they often lack that rotation. And consider, for instance, if you're in pain, you're scared to create too much rhythm or rotation or twist. You will hold and brace your breathing, and in turn brace and hold abdominal and waist and lower back muscles for fear that you're going to pull your back or tweak your back. So all of these learned behaviors feed into subconscious muscular patterns that are created. And so when you have this sway back or this overarch lower back, what then starts to happen, if you can picture this, is that we're squeezing the back portions of your vertebrae against the disc. So if you have ongoing pressure through one side of the disc, you can see why that elasticity through your spinal muscles are all going to be, the muscles that support your spinal column, all of that area is going to be impacted. We've got no elasticity. We are constantly squeezing the back portion of your vertebrae, which means that the disc can start to bulge. And so we hear these expressions, which can be quite scary if you're not really understanding what's going on underneath. Whereas in Total Somatics, that's what's so powerful about this work, is it's about educating and empowering you that you can understand these patterns of tension. However, I can teach you skills to soften, release, and let everything go. So we don't have to be stuck in a tight body, and in this situation, creating lower back issues. But let us just consider something else, because remember, there was all those expressions like you've got a weak core and you've got a brace and you've got to do all this. Well, do you remember I mentioned to you that while your back is swayed, the belly is protruding, and that's due to excessive contraction of your lower back, and it's basically shifted the position of your pelvis, and it's over contracting and exhausting your poor system by creating muscles that are chronically tight. Well, unfortunately, what's happening is that people go and see somebody and they go, I've got this really bad lower back pain. And the person they see, well-intentioned, looks with quite narrow eyes and sees the belly and goes, we've got to strengthen your core. You've got a weak core, your belly, look at your belly, blah, 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 and they'll develop that instead of standing back with soft eyes, looking globally and thinking that lower back pain is because you've got an overly arched and contracted lower back. So then they'll start them on a program of core strengthening. So if you've got a back that's already chronically tight, causing issues to your discs, for instance, and then you start encouraging somebody to contract and start tightening their belly muscles, their core, it's going to make the front and the back really tight. And it's going to amplify that sensation and that feeling of being caught in a trapped, tight body. And so if we're in a trapped, tight body, it means that we've got even less movement than we started with before. Because if we go back a few episodes, do you remember when I mentioned to you about the relationship between your bicep and your tricep? That when you want to contract your bicep, when one side is contracting, for instance, your bicep, the tricep has to lengthen and release to let that go. Likewise, if I contract my tricep, the bicep has to release and let go. That relationship is where we've got an agonist and an antagonist. So the muscles have a relationship that they know that one has to release to let the other one contract. Well, that principle still applies everywhere else in our body. So if you've got a muscle that's chronically tight at the back, What we should really be doing is teaching those muscles how to soften, release, and let go, come back into more of a neutral position. Then if you want to condition your muscles, then that's great to do. However, through learned behavior and habits and postures, emotional events in life, the brain has learned how to tighten and tense and grip and hold muscles in a locked position. But we've forgotten how to soften, release, and let that tension go. And so, in order to get that relationship that when one side contracts, the other side relaxes, we should be really looking at the lower back and thinking, we need to do a software reset. We need your brain to muscle connection to go, hang on, we need to actually soften and release the muscles through your lower back. And when we soften and release through your lower back, then we're able to start bringing in efficient muscle memory. If you want to bring in conditioning and strengthening, you can do. Because what you've done is you've learned to teach your lower back muscles how to soften, release, and then come back into more of a neutral position rather than being overarched. So can you see it's about being methodical, but thinking more outside the box than the old things of you've just got to strengthen a muscle. Because as we become more enlightened about movement science, pain science, neuromuscular science, we know that there's more to it than just strengthening a muscle. It's about re-education. It's about creating efficient movement within the muscle. Remember that expression, muscle memory. If your lower back is chronically tight and contracted, we've lost muscle memory. We need to teach that to come back, to remember when one side contracts, the other side relaxes or releases to make that movement happen. That's how strong your brain is, that we are more subconscious than conscious. So we need to do total somatic movement, mindset, and mindfulness practices in order to create more of a mindful, conscious learning environment for our body to override a lot of those habitual subconscious patterns of behavior that we've developed over time. So that's why I'd like to invite you into the Total Somatics membership. If you would love to join the Total Somatics membership, you are more than welcome. Go to totalsomatics.com, click on the Join Now page, and you'll notice that from time to time we open the membership doors. So if you go to the Join Now page and it's currently closed, please leave your email in the little box and you will be the very first to be notified when we open the membership doors. You see, I only open them for a few days, a few times throughout the year, because the rest of the time I am fully focused on the Total Somatics members, helping to serve and support them to whatever they need. And within the membership, there is this vault, this banquet of support material. And I'm there also supporting them and doing live workshops and live Q&A sessions, so that I'm keeping my finger fully on the pulse, really wanting to know exactly what's happening and creating content to what the members need. So you are more than welcome to join. Go to totalsomatics.com, click on the Join Now page, and either join, or if the doors are shut, just leave your email and I will let you know when the doors open. But in the meantime, you can get started today with totalsomatics.com. If you go to the shop page, you will see that there are workshops. So there's like video workshops, and I've done PowerPoint slides to teach you a bit more about your amazing brain, your movement patterns. There are movement classes within that too. And also there are audio classes. So you can get started today. You can start to increase rib mobility, spinal movement, shoulder and hip health, and you can start to learn how to truly regulate your central nervous system, which has a huge impact on your muscles, your joints, your fascia, and your overall well-being. So I'd love to share all this work with you because it's life-changing, it really is. So until next time, all my love and very best wishes. Take care. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.